Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and I should say a very good morning on a Monday at the time of this recording. Mr. Barry Cryan coming in all the way from, I was going to say the motherland. Actually, it is the motherland for me because my heritage is in Ireland. So Barry
Very
Cryan
good.
coming in from Ireland. How are you, my friend?
Very good, Darren. It's great to hear. Thanks a million.
It's very early over there because you're up very early. It's I think it's 7 a.m. you were saying.
7 a.m. Yeah, yeah. But 7 a.m. Look, it's good time to get up and get at it, I think.
Especially on a Monday. Especially on a Monday.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%. Start the week fast.
Absolutely. So Barry, CEO and founder at Do More Better, and also a co-author. Is the book recently released?
It's about, I'd say about 6 months.
Has been released 6 months ago.
About 6 months, yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Co-authored with Les Brown. There's a few other people in there as well. A book called Rise Above. So we'll give people the opportunity of where they can grab hold of that. Mate,
Yeah.
I've got to ask the question. You're in Ireland. Les is based in the States. How
Yeah.
did we cross paths? How did that come to be?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I'm in in a number of groups, but I'm in a large marketing group in the US. It's More Capital, and Rudy Moore is the leader there. So I'm in his marketing mastermind. He brings in like exceptional speakers like at all our events, you know. So we've about four big events a year, and Les was one of them. It was about, I'd say, going back probably 18 months ago. He was at one of our events. He was one of the main speakers at the event, and yeah, look, like you do. We get talking. He likes my story and my background, all that sort of stuff, and didn't think any more of it. But yeah, eventually one of his team reached out to me, wanted to discuss it a bit more in detail. Next thing they're talking about a book. They some more discussions around that as well. And one thing led to another, and they asked me to get involved in this next project then, which I did, which is great. But yeah, it was a thing that went on for quite a while. It was supposed to be a 6 month project. It turned into a 12-month project.
Wow.
But it's like one of those things. I wasn't sure whether it was going to reach for fruition or not. But yeah, thankfully, it's about 6 months ago. The book got released with Les, and it's something that it's very coincidental. But actually, Les is really where I started my own journey into personal development. Yeah, you know, back probably going back, 12, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was something that was kind of coming full circle for me then at that point. But yeah, that's kind of generally the background to it.
Nice. And I've got to ask also, because I know there's been some photos of both of you signing books, having the books in front of you. Have you been on some sort of global or North American book tour?
Well, what we did was we launched the book, so we had a big launch in Miami last July, and but no, yeah, really outside of that, then it was Les that was on podcast. He was kind of leading the book. There was myself and nine other co-authors involved in.
Mm.
But yeah, like thankfully from a time point of view, it was Les leading all that. He was that's what he's the name really. He's the brand that's going to get in front of people, and we were just kind of leading in behind him then. But yeah, Les absolutely was the guy banging the drum for the last six to 12 months.
Love it, love it. He's a
Yeah,
great man. I've been following him for about 20 years myself.
yeah,
So
yeah.
awesome. So Barry, looking forward to this conversation. You're a systems and productivity expert, transforming overwhelmed business owners, and dare I say, throw in leaders there as well, and turning them into efficient, focused leaders. So, love to learn a little bit about your background and specifically what led you down this path? Because I firmly believe, well, it's fact, everybody has a story, and I'm really interested in yours insofar as what happened that led you to now be the systems and productivity expert that you are.
Yeah, no, that's a great question as well. Because yeah, absolutely, everyone has a story. Um, did I think I'd ever be here today as a performance coach? No, I didn't. My own background is in safety engineering. That's where I started. That's where I always thought I would work, and and I worked across a lot of pharmaceuticals in that capacity, across Ireland here and mainly North and Northwest. But what happened is, so like I was going about my life, going about my job, everything was normal. And I'd say about 11 years ago now at this stage, I just came down one day with kind of strange flu-like symptoms.
Yeah.
It was usual kind of aches and pains and stuff like that. I didn't think anything of it, kind of tried to keep going for a couple of days. And the funny thing about it is they didn't get any better. They actually started getting worse and worse. They developed into, memory loss, short-term memory loss, chronic fatigue, really bad chronic fatigue, brain fog. And this evolved in weeks turned into months, months turned into years, actually 2.5 years before I could actually get any answers to actually what was wrong with me. And so I was going down to every doctor and consultant and getting tests and sleep studies and all this other stuff. Couldn't actually find out what was wrong with me. But in the meantime, I was struggling to do my day
Mm.
job. So like I was not performing at all. I was probably getting one day's work done every five. I used to have to go to the bathroom, lock the door behind me to try and rest my eyes for 15 or 20 minutes in order for me to try and recharge a little bit to go for the next maybe 90-minute block in the day. And I really wasn't performing. So I was like, well, I have bills to pay, a mortgage, family, and I need to try and find medical solutions, which cost money, of course.
Yeah.
And that was a significant challenge for me because I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to hold on to my job here, and therefore I cannot support myself or my family. So I was like, I need to find a better way. I look out there and I see the likes of Sir Richard Branson. He's over 500 companies. I'm like, there's people out there doing things at a different level to me. What are they doing? So I know I need to get more out of myself at a reduced capacity. So I just started going out, like going down that whole rabbit hole of high performance. YouTube was getting very big that time. So it was YouTube videos, seminars, workshops, and even we talked about Les Brown there. Actually, that's where I first came across Les Brown, and it was funny. It's like closing the loop for me when I released that book with him, because it was like Les Brown and Tony Robbins and these other guys, and started going down that whole rabbit hole of ultimately trying to get more out of myself. And I've seen certain commonalities between how the best in the world do this. I started taking
Mm.
those things. I started battle testing them, taking what worked, discarding what didn't work. There's a lot of talk about, you know, you know, management of time, and there's a lot of talk about, time blocking and making lists and all this other stuff. And actually, what I learned is actually those same tools that people are trying to use now and really struggling in their days, the same tools people were using 50, 100 years ago. Well, where even in the last 5 years since COVID, things have gone to a whole new level. Those same tools aren't working for people. And what I found is actually that the top, your podcast is the exceptional sales leader, the exceptional people out there that really do this at the best at an optimal level. Those people are doing things just a little bit differently to everybody else. So I started taking those things, battle tests, and I started to see significant differences in how I was doing things ultimately. And I talked about there about getting about maybe one day's work done every five. Actually, when I really dialed this in, even while I was still suffering from chronic fatigue, short-term memory loss, and all the rest, I was actually getting about 5 days done in one, which
Wow.
seems kind of an outlandish statement to most people, but actually the people that go through my process now and my frameworks, one of the questions I actually ask them at the end of every end of program call is we measure baseline, we measure where they are afterwards, and they're somewhere between 5 and 10x, like which most people would think is totally unachievable. But actually, it's amazing what you can do with the right tools. And but that's ultimately how my journey started. I really didn't think anything more about okay, the world needs this stuff, but ultimately, I got to a point where through a kind of freak series of coincidence, I found out that I had a Lyme disease, and
All right.
I only found out through a specialist center in the Czech Republic, again through a kind of freak series of coincidences. Got over there, got tested because really they're not familiar with it in Ireland at all, and they got tested over there. I had to go over there for a full month to get treated. And it was all when I was over there, really, I started thinking about what I was doing, and I started thinking, well, actually, I looked thinking about the office back at home. People were using lists and diaries and planners, and some people had no system whatsoever. And I was like, well, actually, all this is a skill and a system like anything else that we would learn in life. Like, we're all confident, we're experienced, all the rest, but actually, no one sits us down and says, okay, I know you know all the theory, but and you know how to implement it, but how do you get the most out of
Yeah.
yourself? And that's literally where I started then saying, okay, well, look, there's something more in this. I started documenting things a bit more while I was over there in Czech. I started formalizing things a bit more, helping people when I came back, like friends and colleagues and stuff like that. And really wasn't even thinking about the wider world at that point. Then it was during COVID, then I started, like a lot of people, I got a bit braver and I started putting stuff out online that I kind of evolved in into helping people through free master classes. And it just kept evolving and evolving and evolving to that point where now I help some of the busiest business owners across Ireland, UK, US, and the wider world now to ultimately get the most out of themselves so they can get the most out of their business and their life then as well.
Well, as you were talking there, I was going to ask you the question, but then you said you were diagnosed with Lyme disease. If you look back, was some of that based on I guess, the workload that you had and the overwhelm that might have been created, that it doesn't necessarily cause it, but might accelerate it or accentuate it?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Darren. Like I don't remember ever having a tick bite or anything like that, but at the time, but absolutely I did when I was younger. And there's no doubt at that time I was highly stressed. I was working long hours. I was look, I was ticking those boxes 100%. And it was definitely the stress response from that triggered the autoimmune condition, and then one thing led to another and another and another. Yeah, so absolutely, that's exactly what happened. Yeah,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah.
Ahmed, and how are you today in terms of all of that? Is it something that, I mean, and excuse my ignorance, but is Lyme disease something that is manageable? Because I know 'cause things like chronic fatigue, I'm understanding that it's not necessarily curable, but it's managed moving forward. Is that correct, or has it been eradicated?
Yeah, no, it's difficult. It is difficult, really, to get to the bottom of it. But with proper life management, as in diet, you get the right amount of sleep, you look after yourself. The body will look after itself as well.
Mm,
So absolutely. Now, if I was to go down that rabbit hole where say I wasn't eating right or I wasn't sleeping right, absolutely, I would feel myself getting to a point where look, I need to change the way I do things here again. But no,
mm.
once they look after those kind of foundational pieces, the diet and sleep and all the rest, no, it is totally, totally manageable. And yeah, feel as good as ever, really, once I make sure those pieces are in place, which is good motivation to make sure I keep doing the right things as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because
Yeah,
that just enhances quality of life, and have time to enjoy the finer things,
yeah,
and whatever that happens to be in terms of maybe a
100%.
a Guinness a Guinness or a couple. Is that allowed?
100%. What? 100%. 100%. That's all parts of life as well.
Oh,
Like everyone talks about balance, but it is too. Like, you have to have that balance in life because life, yeah, it would be boring otherwise.
oh, it would be, and I'm
Definitely.
I'm sure
Yeah.
balance is there's nothing like maybe two pints of Guinness a day. That's balanced enough, isn't it?
100%. 100%. Nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah.
So Barry, as you were talking there, you mentioned Sir Richard Branson, and it's interesting. The people that I work with, whether it be sales teams or sales leaders or just normal operational leaders, when you often ask them how they're going and how they are, they often say, "Oh, I'm flat out, I'm busy," right? And I feel as if they've got no time in the day because everything's overwhelmed and there's no real system. They might use to-do lists. They may have been to some sort of time management program or priority management program, but then when I speak to them about people like Sir Richard Branson, where he has ownership or direct involvement in, hundreds and hundreds of companies, you think, well, hang on, we've both got 24 hours in the day. How is it that somebody like Richard Branson can be so productive and achieve so much, and yet we are so inundated with stuff that, we can't see the forest for the trees, and it just feels like one day rolls into the next. Through the process, and you mentioned before you did a lot of research on YouTube, did courses and went to seminars and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that journey? Because out of it, you've created a system that is known as FAST, which is an acronym which I'd love to delve into. Just love it a little bit about the story in terms of how you researched all this to arrive at that, and what's your approach to people when they say, "Oh, Barry, I'm so flat out, I'm so busy, I don't have time to take on anything else." But then you say, "Well, hang on a second, Richard Branson does this. All the professional people in the world are high achievers. They manage their time very quickly, very very rapidly."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's exactly it. Like, there was one core commonality between how the best in the world do this from my research, and Branson was one of those people. And like they don't manage their time at all. That was the one thing I took away from it. They all leverage their time. So like when you're trying to manage time, you're fighting with the number of things you have to do and the number of hours you have available in the day. And like
Mm,
it's a no-win game. It's a no-win game. It really is, in this day and age. So what we have to do is find a better way. And honestly, that better way is where you can apply leverage to what you do. Like if you think, okay, again, back using an analogy, like business owners, like it's like they're trying to row their business forward. They're using brute force, long hours, and hard effort to actually row forward. But leverage is like placing a motor on that same boat. Now you're steering the ship, but you're going 10x faster. It's far less effort. So that's what leverage is all about. So they leverage processes, they leverage tools, they leverage their decision-making process, they leverage the power of AI, and they leverage decisions to get more out of themselves and their business without applying extra hours or without the stress or all the other stuff that can come with it. So really, it's about working far, far smarter and less hard. It's not about the hours you put in at all. It's all about what you can get out of those hours. And that's where the power of leverage comes in. And
mm,
everything I do is based around the power. That FEST project safety formula, it's all based on the power of leverage. Okay, because that's the only way, say, in the modern day work environment, that you're actually going to get ahead.
mm.
Otherwise, you're going to be like a lot of the business owners that I talked to initially. It's long hours, it's stress. Well, sometimes people think, look at this, it's business. This is just the way it is. Okay, we're going to be busy. We're going to be working long hours, but actually, there is a much better way, and that's the big thing. The message I want to get to people is, there is a better way, and all I'm
Mm.
doing is just giving people that better way.
Because then you hear people like Gary V that talks about the hustle and grind, and you got to
Yeah,
work, and it's almost like people wear it like a badge of honor that I'm working 18-hour days and 7 days a week. And I mean, how realistic and how sustainable is that? And really, when you look at it, how productive are you be? Because there has to be a law of diminishing returns. You get to a point where over that threshold, you'll be less and less productive, and you just be more and more tired.
yeah, that's it exactly. Like we measure people where they are. We measure their journey through the process. We measure them afterwards, and we can actually see, like, by like, if you think about athletes, they don't sprint all day. They sprint, they recover. They sprint to recover. So when you build in the recovery, actually you're far more productive and effective during the time you have available. So it is, yeah, absolutely. Like even a woman I was working with recently, like she would like go on an all-out sprint for like 12 or 14 hours some days, and she really, really kill it, really have it, get through a massive block of work. But then she's flat for 4 days afterwards. So it is the loss diminishing returns. We hit a certain point, and then our output drops way, way, way off. It's more a badge on, or really to say, actually, I worked 12 hours or I worked 14 hours or 18 hours, whatever it is. But it really, it's not sustainable. Like even, the former British PM, Margaret Thatcher, she was famously like would sleep 4 hours a night and all the rest. And like this is her big badge of honor. But look, in her latter years were a spiral of poor health and dementia, and actually her last 10 or 15 years was really difficult for her. And you know what? It catches up with us. We're not really we're putting in the hours, but we're not we ultimately can get more out of ourselves without doing that. If you're working those hours, there's something wrong somewhere. okay, there's something wrong somewhere. We really don't have to do it that way. It could be the systems, it could be processes, it could be maybe our mindset needs to shift around, what we need to, what we can actually achieve when the time we have available. But ultimately, it's going to catch us out somewhere. If not now, then at some point in the future.
It's interesting you say that because, I mean, there's lots of books on productivity, and you've got, I mean, Tim Ferriss is probably the most famous in terms of the 4 hour
Yeah,
work week and things like that. But even he, he didn't start out with a 4 hour work week. He's actually cut back a lot of stuff to the point where he knows where his time is most valued and he focuses on that, but he also brings in leverage to everything he does. When you're working with business owners, in particular, or corporate leaders that are really busy, 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 how much of it actually is mindset to help them shift their paradigm to realize, hey, you don't have to be putting in 12 hours. There's no badge of honor that you have to be the last person leaving the office to the point where you turn the lights out as you leave. And there is a better way. How much of it is to getting over that mental hurdle that, hey, success equals hard work, equals grind, equals long time, equals quantity of time.
yeah. Like there is definitely that mental barrier at the very start. So it's something I spend a chunk of time on the very start to realign people's mindset. Because otherwise, yeah, you're fighting a losing battle. Because look, if you can get people to think differently, you're going to get people to take a different action. And if you start taking a different action, you're going to produce a different result. So that's actually the first place we start. Because otherwise, it's like operating with the handbrake up when you're trying to coach people through a better way, give them the tools, the systems, and the processes. They don't fully believe in it, or they don't fully believe in themselves. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to take them much longer. It's going to be much harder, and therefore the chances and the likelihood of them getting what they need out of it goes way down. So it
Mm,
has to be the start. But it's almost like the foundation, really, the foundational piece that we build the structures and systems on. Then,
nice, nice. So let's talk about this. And I saw, did I see somewhere you talk about, I know we're going to talk about FAST as a time leveraging system, but I saw a reference, might have been on your website or a post you might have put about second brain.
yeah, yeah. So like one of the core parts of um, my process is building in place what I call a second brain time revision system. So this is like a system that holds the noise, makes the decisions, tells them what to do at any given day and time based on the priorities. It's ultimately everything is funneled through this second brain system. Okay, all the information, all the noise, all the decision making. Because what's happening with most people is that they're making way too many micro decisions in their days. Okay, they're always making micro decisions. Well, I do this thing or that thing or this thing on the list, or which of them things on the list, or now there's someone checking for something over here, and now the name is popping in. What's happening is the more micro decisions we have to make, the more it impacts our cognitive load. The more it leads to decision fatigue, and actually it significantly drops off our performance. Okay, because we tend to work on things in the wrong order as well. Plus, the decision fatigue ultimately impacts our energy, our headspace, and the kind of results that we're achieving. So
Yeah.
that's what systems do. Systems take out all the micro decisions, and so you're putting your focus on the process as opposed to us as human beings always trying to make the right decisions about every single thing we're doing. For example, for me, very simple example is I try to avoid sweets and sugar, for reasons we talked about Monday to Friday. And if I didn't have a process or system, I'd always be making micro decisions. Will I have it now? Will I have the sweets later? Will I just have a little bit? Will I have a lot? Will I have
Yeah.
some tomorrow instead? Or what happens is I'll eventually cave in and eat the stuff, that I shouldn't.
Yeah.
So my system is very simple. I don't have it in the house Monday to Friday. And then if I have to, when I go to the shop the weekend, I decide then one decision whether I buy it then or not. So I've
Yeah.
boiled hundreds of micro decisions or more down to one decision. So your likelihood of success goes way up because you only have one decision to make as opposed to getting hundreds of decisions right the whole way through your week. And it's not impacting you in some other way then as well. Because if you have to make micro decisions about that, you're more likely to give in to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So that's what systems do. To massively reduce the level of micro decisions you have to make so you can get the end outcome you want. So like even a manufacturing plant, if they didn't have systems or processes, parts would be too big or they'd be too small or there'd be defects, but they all have a step-by-step process to get them predictable outcomes, predictable
Mhm.
process, predictable outcomes. And that's exactly what that second main system does. So like when you put the right data in, you're going to get the right outputs from that second rinse system. It's like the second rinse system is like the formula, you know, or to ultimately get you the result on the far side.
Nice. Love it. So, and that obviously fits in with the fast time leveraging system as well. So, and we'll put some stuff in the show notes for people to get access to your website and where to connect with you, which we'll talk about a little bit
Yeah.
later. But are you able to just take us through, I guess, the the method, the acronym, and some of the key points? And I'm also intrigued on, was there anything specific through your research that led to this that has worked for you or has worked for you and others that led to this?
Yeah, perfect. So look at the FEST is built around number one, filtering the noise. So it's filtering the noise, because one of the big things I see is that it's I I call it the wall of noise. You know, the emails, the calls, the interruptions, the questions, all the other stuff that's happening in our days. What happens is, again, the more the more noise we have, the more we're going to be pulled and dragged, and the less time and energy we're going to be put into the things that actually matter. So a massive thing is actually filtering the noise. Okay, query, even a lot of business owners that I work with, to get their team are, you know, coming to them rightly, you know, with questions and queries. But what happens is every time we get interrupted or distracted, it costs us 11 to 24 minutes. 40% of the time it sends us on a tangent this way when we were supposed to be going this way with our day. And what happens is that if you think about it, even that happens 3 times a day, that's an hour lost a day. Okay, that's 5 hours a week. That's 5 working weeks of time over a year. When someone came up to you and said, okay, here's 5 working weeks of time, take that, spend it on your business. Like what could we all achieve? You know, it's massive. And for most of us, it's a lot more than that. So if you think about the cost, like, of the interruptions and the distractions and the pings and the dings and all the other stuff, that is a massive quick win for most people, is where you can start filtering out that noise. Your system and process allows you to do that, you know, very simply. You know, like, most people are like, yeah, but my team have to ask me questions and have to be available to them. I'm like, yeah, they do. Okay. But it's not that they don't do it, it's when they do it. So what I do is I funnel those queries and questions into windows in the day. For example, instead of having 5 questions, 5 different interruptions during their morning, they've like an open door slot in their calendar and everyone's calendar, like a half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon. So now they have to wait a little bit, gives you a little bit of friction, a little bit of time lag between you and them. But they're funneling all those 5 queries, so it's like one planned interruption instead of 5 intermittent interruptions in their morning. For most people, it's a lot more than that as well. But what happens is you start to empower people a lot more as well, because when it's too easy for people to come to us for the fish, instead of actually them learning to fish, or us giving them the fishing rod to actually go and learn it themselves. Because guess what? If you disappeared for a week or for a month,
Yeah.
people generally would figure it out. What would they do? They'd ask somebody else. Like if you ever had a missed call from somebody, and you know they were looking for something urgently, you just didn't see it for whatever reason. You get back to them 2 hours later. Guess what? They've more or less sorted it out themselves by the time you get
Yeah.
back to them.
Yeah.
It's the same and a lot of things in life. People like to no friction, go from A to B in the fastest way. But sometimes we have to empower people to actually start solving their own problems, because ultimately that's what we're paying them to do. So
Mm.
that's another hidden benefit of that. Um, A then is aligning time with your
Just hang on,
outcomes.
just before you go on to A, right? So
Yeah,
I love this because I had a client many years ago who was a director of a town planning organization, and he had an open door policy, and all his team, because he was in the open environment with his team, and his team are always asking him questions. And he said to me, Darren, I'm only doing my billable work after they all leave. And I said, we've got to find out a system. So I love the fact you actually have windows where people
yeah.
can collate their information and come in those designated windows. What do you say to people, though, that in an open plan environment, they want to be open and accessible and visible to their team? Come and ask me questions. We've got this open door policy.
Well, what I'd say first of all is that look at the cons really outweigh the pros there, because number one, what's going to happen is that look at like I always say to business owners, you are the business. Okay, without you, there isn't a business. And actually, we feel like we have to be available to everyone. Could be clients even, might even be your team. We have to answer clients quickly. We have to be always there for them. up the phone quickly, get back to them with an email fast, and that's all brilliant. But guess what? Nobody thanks you for doing all the little stuff. We dropped the ball somewhere big over here, and
Yeah.
now a deadline has been missed. Our client isn't going to be happy. Okay, or if somebody doesn't have a job in 3 or 6 months because we've lost that big client, they're not going to be that happy about it either. So
Yeah.
guess what? By putting ourselves first, actually, we're better for everybody else around us. Okay, we're better for our clients, we're better for our colleagues. But the other thing that happens is now people start to respect our time more as well. Okay, our time value and estimation of people's time goes way up when there's a little bit of space between us. And the analogy I often give business owners to help them realign their focus on this is that, if you went to somebody, you wanted to go to maybe a lawyer or someone like that. Okay, and you picked up the phone, you got straight through to them, and you were like, oh, I need to talk to you about this, whatever, this legal issue. And they were like, yeah, come in anytime, any day. Look, at like all next week available. You'd be like, you know what, I'll find somebody else. What would happen? Your time estimation goes down. If they told you, look, the next appointment, you go through to the secretary and the next appointment is for 3 weeks, guess what? You'd be like, it must be good.
Yeah.
I'll wait for them. So
That's it.
it's a little mindset shift there. But what we do is we stack in the wins so you can actually test this. And I say, look, you don't have to change everything overnight. You gradually calibrate people across this. And when they start to see how this works with them in reality, then they start to buy into the next part and the next part and the next part. So they're like, that's a massive part of it as well, because when you get that buy-in from these parts, they're like, okay, well, look, I trust you in the last bit, even though I didn't fully think it would work for me. If that works, what could we do with the next part of this process, or the next part, or the next part?
Love it.
But
Love it.
yeah,
And
it's important to get that buy-in.
excellent. And just before we talk about the A, I'd love your thoughts on email in relation to what's your thoughts on having just blocks of time throughout the day for email? Because I know a lot of business owners and a lot of business leaders have their emails on all the time and they're very responsive to emails. I see that as a
Yeah,
massive productivity, not a hack, not a positive hack. That is a
yeah,
waste of time.
yeah, it is, because what's happening is you're working on somebody else's priorities instead of your own. A lot of people would spend the day switching between emails and meetings, really. Okay, so they're in and out of
Yeah.
their inbox all day. Amount of businesses I talk to, and they're using their inbox as a to-do list. That's their to-do list for the day. What's coming through their
Mm.
emails? Actually, when you're doing that, your business is on the back burner. Okay, a bit like that guy with his billable work. You're actually working on other people's priorities, which really are that it's not the billable stuff for you. It's not stuff that's going to move the business forward.
Yeah.
And all business owners get away with that for a while. What happens is things start to plateau and stagnate, and then things start to go backwards because you're not getting
Mm.
any time on the business. So again, like those open door times, you have to funnel emails into windows in your day. I call them power blocks. Block,
Yeah.
maybe a block in the morning, block in the afternoon, because you're far more efficient at what you're doing, but you're far more efficient outside of those times as well, because your
Yeah.
times, again, you're not getting that noise in your day of all these intermittent emails popping in, so you can actually sit down and get deep work done on what actually
Mm.
matters in the business. So absolutely, it's factoring that in. And I always have a circuit breaker situation. Some business owners might be like, yeah, but what if I have to wait for this one thing that's going to come in, that's going to, that I need to see? I'm like, well, there's a golden rule of only doing your emails during those blocks. But there's a silver rule for some business owners I build in as well, which is, okay, yes, you can, you can check your emails, but only finish when you finish a task. So you're not actually
Yeah.
task switching. So if you finish a task, yes, quick scan your emails, get in, that thing come in, that you were looking for. No, get back out again. Okay.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Again, it's putting ourselves first so we can put on our own oxygen mask and better serve everybody else around us when we do that then.
Love it. Love it. I'm glad you're on the same page
Oh,
because
100%.
the email is it's a killer. I just don't understand it. And I spent 20 years in corporate stuck on
Yeah.
emails and I don't know. It's just terrible. Terrible. All right. So that's filter the noise. A is
Yeah.
align your time with outcome. So let's talk about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So look at classic example. Uh, Someone came to me last week and, they want to do this AI course, and, they're going to try to see 30 AI tools, and, it's going to be great. I think I should go and do it. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, what's the outcome you're after? And they couldn't really tell me. So it's the same with me. and the clients I work with, ultimately everything has to be with the end outcome in mind.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's very easy to head off in the wrong direction. Okay. And you can be fast and efficient in the wrong direction as well. So we have to align your time with the end outcomes. So one of the first things we do is actually look at the endpoints. Okay. What is it you want to achieve? And then we want to reverse engineer back from that point then. So we can funnel your time and energy into the right place. So for example, say somebody wants to, I don't know, maybe they want to increase revenue by 20%. Well, what do we need to do that? We take a step back. Well, we probably have to bring in, say, 12 new clients this year. Okay, step back again. What do we need to do that? That's one a month. In order to bring in one a month, step back again. Well, we probably have to bring 4 new leads a week. Okay, to bring in 4 new leads a week, what do we need to do? Well, we have to spend probably 2 hours on marketing. So therefore, we set up structures and systems to funnel their time and energy into that area for at least 2 hours a week. So then if they do that and they're consistent without the system builds in the consistency, then guess what? They will achieve what they want to achieve at the end of the year. So we have to align your time with outcomes. But when you systemize it, as long as you just don't disappear, you keep taking steps forward, then there's no way you can't achieve what you want to achieve.
It's consistency. And that's the thing. It's,
yeah.
and from a product and being a high performance coach as you are, you would know that instant gratification and instant success is very, very rare. But more than likely, it's a result of constant good habits that have been developed over time that has been tested, measured, adjusted to see how it works for the individual, but sticking to the course because it's not, you're not going to get an instant result. But once you've got it,
100%.
you've now got the system and say, well, how do I now leverage that system?
Yeah, 100%. Like it's the power of consistency. So this is where the systems come in then, because it's the systems that builds in consistency. Some days we're motivated, some days we're not. Some days we're really at it, some days we're not. Some days we're really disciplined, some days we're not. But we have to take a reliance off all these things where people think, they're all fleeting things. People that come to me a lot of times, they're like, oh, I just need to be a bit more disciplined. Actually, it's not about that at all. Discipline will be there some days, but it gets fatigued, our focus gets fatigued, our motivation gets fatigued, decision making gets fatigued. So what we need to do is systemize execution then. And this is where S comes in, is to put in place systems that allows us to automate, eliminate, delegate, or even just streamline how you do things. So you're always funneling your focus and energy in the right places. My whole goal is to get people into their zone of genius.
Yeah.
Look, what's the 80-20 rule? 20%. Okay, that's gone against 80% of the results. That's what the systems do, is to get you down into that zone of genius where you can spend as much time on that 20% as possible in order for you to exponentially increase your results. Okay. And it's the systems that allows us to do it. And like, we've never been in a better time when it comes to AI and all this other stuff to allow us to really kind of apply leverage to that. Okay. So even if we can't use AI or eliminate or reduce, or to delegate using systems, what we can do even is even reduce the friction points. Like, instead of 5 steps to do something, we could make it 3 steps, or we could make it 2 steps. So there's so much you can do when it comes to the power of systems. And therefore, if you have the data, you filter the noise, your outcomes are all aligned with your goals, and you have systems there. Systems are like the vehicle that bridges the gap between where you are now and where you want to go. And you have almost like your GPS set up, in your vehicle as well, because you know what your outcomes are, the endpoints. So now you're always heading in the right direction. You're fast and efficient, and you're heading in the right direction at all times.
Nice. And that's, I love that systemization, because it means that's where true leverage comes into it. Because if you can get it set up a system, particularly if you want to duplicate yourself, if you're expanding a team, expanding a business, you want to bring people in who can do those. That's where the delegation part comes in. But they're not giving people just the task to do. You're giving them a system to follow, that anybody should come in and be able to follow the system, because the system is what's going to deliver the outcome.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, what I do is like even a lot of business owners, don't like delegation because people won't do it as well as them and so on.
Yeah.
But actually,
Yeah.
again, that's the system really,
Yeah.
or the lack of system sometimes. What I do for anything I'm delegating is I have a playbook that I build out using AI. So if I'm doing the task, I just simply use AI to track how I do it, to measure how I do it. And I use that then to build out playbooks. So again, if I can hand over a playbook to somebody, a member of my team, well, then all they have to do is follow that predictable process to get a predictable outcome. So a mini checklist, that they have to work through when they're doing tasks and these playbooks. So again, as long as they follow the process, they're going to get the outcome they're after. Like
Yeah.
sometimes people think, oh yeah, but people should just know what to do and just do it. Well, brain surgeons, they follow checklists. Pilots, they all follow checklists. Why? Because they want to get to an end outcome. They want a predictable outcome, really.
Yes.
In their instance, it's matter of life or death, and it's not always the case for us. We need to treat it like that because again, we want to achieve the end outcomes we're after. So it is again, it's not really 9 times out of 10 doesn't come down to the person, even though we feel like it does. Actually, it comes down to the system we're giving them. So
That's
that's
it.
really important.
And that's why you hear people all the time say and you hear sporting teams all the time say, just trust the system, trust the process, trust the game
Yes.
plan, right? Just follow the game
Yeah.
plan, the results will take care of itself. So don't try to outsmart the system.
100%. And it is such a buzzword now, follow the process, follow the process. But it is, if you just think, if you do follow the process, you're going to get the end outcome. When you think about the outcome, it can be overwhelming. You might not start at all, but when you follow the process, you're going to get there. Plus,
Mm,
what happens is when you follow the process, it's like putting a magnifying glass under the sun. You're funneling all your focus and energy just to that point, as opposed to what a lot of people do is their time and energy is diluted across everything that's going on, and they're working on this thing and they're half thinking about something over here, and they're not really fully harnessing the power of their focus and their energy. When you really focus on the process, actually, now you're almost blinkered on just that next thing. Okay. And you can park everything else. And when you get that thing done, then you focus on that next thing. And what happens is you're far more focused and efficient then as well, almost as a byproduct of that.
Which brings into question this myth that I often try to bust with people is you can't multitask. There's no such thing.
Yeah,
Because your attention's going from one thing to the next. And I think you said
absolutely.
before there's something like 11 minutes that it takes to get
Yeah,
back into rhythm with
yeah,
the original task. So guys,
absolutely.
just one thing at a time, laser focus and get it done, and then move on to the next task.
Yeah,
And then wrapping up then with the T, which is all about tracking what truly matters. So,
yeah.
what are some of the tips there?
So what we do is we manage and measure success files. So say in health wise, we all have success files. It could be blood pressure and heart rate and so on. But actually in business, we're as well. You know, so if we don't measure that, it's very easy to go a little bit off track and then go another little bit off and a little bit off. It's like say if say taking a flight. Say I'm based in Ireland. If you're taking a flight from where I live now across the Atlantic, if you were just even 1 degree off in your coordinates, doesn't look like much now, but you
Mm,
multiply that out, by 100 miles, 1,000 miles. Actually, when you're at 1 degree off, you end up thousands of miles off track by the time you reach your end destination. And it's
yeah.
the same with us in life. We don't really notice the little 1 degree shifts where we go off track a little bit. So what we do is we track actually and measure their success files to make sure when they do go a little bit off, they get back on track. Okay, if they
Mm,
go a bit off again, they get back on track. A bit like again, come back to the analogy around flights. Is like flights are actually off track 95% of the time, and actually in business, we can be as well, and that's okay as long as we're course correcting. Okay, so the flight goes a bit
mm,
off track, they're always course correcting it back on track. It's the
yeah.
same with us. When we keep doing that, and with the systems in place, and we're aligning our time with the right outcomes, okay, guess what's going to happen is we're going to get there. A lot of people start strong, they're doing all the right things, but they look
Yeah.
back in 6 months or 12 months and they're not sure what happened. We
Yeah.
were doing all the right things, we were ticking the boxes, we were going to the gym 3 nights a week, and we just fell off. What did happen is they just didn't measure and manage their success vitals. And that's so important because if we do that daily, weekly, monthly, even when we do go off track a little bit, it's totally correctable. Okay. And if you keep doing that, then there's no way again you can't achieve the end outcomes that you're after.
Mm. And then because you see it all the time. Classic case is end of the calendar year. We set the New Year's resolutions, and most New Year's resolutions are gone by the 15th of January
Yeah,
because we
absolutely.
start we start quickly with the best of intentions, but we don't have a system. We haven't tracked
Yeah,
what is the progress we want to be making. We just focus on the outcome. But we think that's the thing. I'm just going to work until I get that. Well, no, you got to break it down into bite-sized chunks. So
100%, 100%. And then you just stay on track, measure, manage, and stay on track.
now, love it. So this is the time to not be modest and boast some of the results that people have got working with your system. So you mentioned before that you used to be thinking, oh, you do 1 day work across 5 days, but now you've been able to do pretty much 5 days work in 1 day because of the system. What are some of the results people can typically achieve once they use a system such as this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question as well. And like I still astounded at the kind of results I see. And that's the honest truth. Like even a guy finished me last week, like he he was he was working he's working 80 hours a week. Now he's running two businesses and he's working 40 or less hours a week. And that was only last week. I just released that case study there only a couple of days ago. And it constantly amazes me to see the difference this makes, not only in hours worked or in their life or in what they can actually achieve in their business, but what the impact this has on their personal time as well,
Yeah.
and their families, their health, and all the rest. Like so, like I always say, look, there's no way that we cannot get you at least 12 hours more back out of your week. That's like a bog standard minimum guarantee I could make. Again, it depends on the individual after that, but I see anything from 12 hours to 48 hours back from people's weeks within 8 weeks. So it's not like this big, like 12-month process or anything like that.
Yeah.
People getting anything from, as I was saying earlier, five to 10x more out of their days, out of their weeks. Most people think, look at how could that be? Honestly, it's amazing what you can do with the right systems and structures. And if you go to my website, barrycryan.com, you'll see just a few of those case studies there, and you can. It's everybody is good at their job. Everyone knows what they need to do. All I'm doing is just giving you a better way. I'm giving you just to scale in a system. That's all it is, to get the most out of yourself. And if you can do that, you're going to get the most out of your business. You're going to get the most out of your life. And there's so many hidden byproducts of that. Like the more you get out of yourself, like the better you feel, the more recovery time you get, the more downtime you get, the more satisfied you are about what you've achieved in your business, in your day. Then you take that into your evening. You're better for your family. You're less stressed, so you sleep better. So therefore, you're getting even more recovery. And then tomorrow we'll get even more of yourself because of that. And it's like a big positive momentum loop that people get into. The more they do, the
Yeah.
better they feel. The more they do get done, and it's honestly life changing for a lot of people, a lot of the business owners I work with, and gives me such an amount. I always say to people on the first call, like, all I want to do is be talking to you in 8 weeks and getting those same kind of feedback that X and Y has got, because that's where I get my sense of satisfaction. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
if people do it and they follow and they just keep working with me step by step, that way 8 o'clock, you get there. Like there's no magic wand or silver bullet. It takes, like I always say to people, look, it takes 2 hours a week. But if they
Yeah.
give me 2 hours a week for the 8 weeks, they get everything that they need from this process. And
Wow.
look at on my side, then like I get such an unreal sense of satisfaction out of hearing those stories. Then afterwards, it constantly amazes me the kind of things people tell me. And sometimes people only tell me certain things after they finish the process. Like for
Yes.
example, I have people that told me afterwards, look, actually, I didn't tell you this at the time, but I was on the verge of selling my business, or I was on the verge of an absolute breakdown, or like all this other stuff people sometimes only say to you afterwards, after they've gone through this
Mm.
process, because they're so
Mm.
thankful of where they were and the journey they've came on. And what I always would say to people as well is there is a better way. And I'm just giving you that better way. That's all it is. It doesn't have to
Love
be
it.
like this if it's difficult right now, and there is a better way. That's all it is. And it's good for people to know that, sometimes people can feel just stuck sometimes.
Well, and that's often the power and you mentioned you're part of lots of mastermind groups as well, and that's the power of the mastermind, tapping into people who already have a system,
Yeah.
or can shine a light in things that perhaps you haven't been able to see, and give you a different perspective, which is really powerful. So Barry, hey, I really love this conversation. I know you've got another call to get on. You mentioned your website. Is there any other places where people can connect with you and specifically get access to this book you've just co-authored with Mr. Les Brown?
Yeah, absolutely. So you would get access to the book on my Instagram page. So that my handle is @CrimeBarry. So you can reach out there to me. Um, you'll find me on LinkedIn as well, and then barrycrime.com are the kind of key places that you can reach out to me on. For those of you that want some free resources, look at, you'll find some on my website. But if you DM me the word FEST on Instagram, so fast on Instagram, if you DM me that, what I'll do is I'll send you on my full FEST productivity formula. I'll get that over to you if you pop me a message. So yeah, you'll find me on social.
Awesome. No worries. Thanks, mate. I'll put that on the show notes, and look
Appreciate
forward
it.
to having people do that, and let's get more people in the world being productive. Barry, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. If there was one final piece of wisdom you wanted to leave people before we close up, what would that be?
Systems. Take out, like, and it doesn't have to be. People think system, think, oh, do we need software? It's just a system. Anything. It's like that example I gave you with sweets and sugar. Don't try to be disciplined. Don't try to be motivated or wait for the perfect time. Have a system for whatever it is you want to achieve. Have a system. Okay, the systems is what will get you there.
Love it. Awesome. Mate, thank you so much. I know it's very early in the morning over in Ireland, but I do appreciate you being on the podcast. And may you have a wonderful Monday, and look forward to staying in contact with you.
100%, Darren. Really appreciate it. Thanks a million. Really
Cheers,
enjoyed
mate.
it.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com, and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.